Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at SoFi. It is time for another update, and on this chart we are tracking a very bullish structure still ongoing, where we have a couple of scenarios. So in the yellow interpretation we are looking now at wave C to the upside that is expected still to be ongoing. That would complete a larger wave 3 that is part of a larger leading diagonal to the upside. And then we have the white scenario, in which we would instead be in an internal third wave to the upside, part of an impulse, following a series of 1-2 setups that have occurred here since the all-time low. Yeah, we have 3 1-2 setups in this interpretation, and then a third wave would be unfolding right now. And at this point, both interpretations are very much equally valid. They both have probably around the same probabilities to work out, although within both interpretations I would expect to form another high. I would actually require another high to have a reliable structure working out. And in the white scenario, on top of that, I would need to get here to the 138.2% extension of the wave 1, which is around the $40.7 level, for it to be a valid and reliable structural interpretation. And again, in both interpretations, after forming this additional high, we would expect a more significant top to be in place, but after a correction, we would expect continuation to higher prices still within both interpretations. Yeah, both scenarios would still expect further continuation to new highs after completing this top after the correction. And yeah, sure, in the white scenario, it is more bullish, it is an impulse forming, and it would expect additional highs compared to the yellow interpretation, but right now it doesn't matter too much because we are tracking here internally within this structure to the upside the same scenario in both cases. We are tracking it in green since it applies to both the white and yellow scenarios. And here we are looking at a wave 1 up, a wave 2 down, a third wave up, fourth wave down, and then a fifth wave that we would expect to be forming right now. And I don't necessarily have full confirmation that this wave 4 has already bottomed, although we do already have all the expectations complete. And in the previous video, we were looking for quite a few options where we were looking for at least a 1-2 setup here in the yellow scenario. Although I remember specifically telling you that I would still prefer to form a fourth and a fifth movement to the upside in the blue interpretation. They weren't necessarily needed, but they would have allowed the structure to look better, and this is in fact what turned out playing. And in this case, we can now assume that we have a complete 5-wave structure to the upside internally. We can track here a potential 1-2 setup, and we can actually even do this in the green interpretation. But I also want you to note that I cannot rule out the possibility of the third wave top being here, since we did form an additional high. It is possible for me to track this as an ABC structure as part of a larger fifth wave internally here. And in that case, we should be prepared for further extensions lower, since we have a 5-wave move to the downside that has occurred afterwards, and we have pushed quite perfectly into the 78.6% retracement before forming another 5-wave move to the downside in this area. So I am still not confirming that we have formed here a bottom within this wave 4 in green, although the probabilities do allow for the interpretation of an ABC structure with a slight overshoot and a complete correction. Yeah, we don't need any additional lows to consider a completion of this correction. And not only that, we even have our initial 5-wave move to the upside in this area, which allows us to be tracking here a potential 1-2 setup, where I will be looking for support here at the levels between the $27.6 all the way down to the $24.8 or $0.9 level at the 78.6% retracement. And as long as we hold here this last level of support, we can still look with high likelihood for a continuation to the upside in a follow-up wave 3. And yes, this is actually one of those more interesting trade setups for a couple of reasons. So firstly, the correction in the wave 4 is likely complete. It could extend, yeah, no problem, it could extend, but we have the possibility to track a full count within this correction. Afterwards, we have a 5-wave move to the upside, and now with this 5-wave move to the downside as well, we do need to be aware that a larger retracement within this wave 2 is very much in play. Yeah, very much possible to get a larger ABC structure within this wave 2, but deep into the retracement area of this wave 2 area of support, we are also very much overlapping with the larger time frame support zone for the larger wave 4 correction. And that allows us to be looking at this potential setup and think, okay, even if this 1-2 setup doesn't work out and we even form an additional low, this is still a very interesting area, as from a large time frame perspective, we were already looking for it with great interest for the wave 4 retracement. Even if we form a large retracement in this wave 4 and form a new bottom, we could start, at least from a large time frame perspective, accumulating from this level, also considering that we have a potential internal 1-2 setup as part of this larger wave 5 in green that we are tracking again within both the white and the yellow interpretation. Now, with that said, as I was mentioning, it is very easily possible for this wave 2 in green to extend. Yeah, I would find it very much possible that this correction, this initial movement to the downside is done, but I would be very much prepared as well for a possible extension within this pattern. And in that case, I will be tracking here internally, let's say, yeah, sure, we can track it in blue, but again, this can work out as part of the green interpretation. I will be tracking it in blue just for more visibility, not to overlap the colors too much. And in that case, I would be watching out here for resistance at the levels between the $27.7 all the way up to the $29.5, where a break above the 78.6% retracement here would be a signal that this structure is likely not going to extend lower and that we could be heading in a more direct way in a third wave to the upside. Yeah, this is about probabilities. It doesn't invalidate the possibility of going lower, but the probabilities would improve for the green scenario, where a bottom would already be formed within this wave too. Now, with that said, such a case would also allow a higher likelihood of breaking the 78.6% retracement in the orange interpretation as well, further decreasing the probabilities afterwards of a follow-up wave C to the downside, yeah? Because in the orange interpretation, we would be looking instead at a 1-2 setup here, as opposed to what we would be tracking in the blue scenario, an A-B setup. Although, again, it would have the same resistance levels as in the blue interpretation, which is why we are tracking it in a separate color. Yeah, this could work out within this extension lower, could work out within the green interpretation, and within the orange interpretation, this extension lower would be expected to be even stronger in a third wave to the downside instead, and then a fourth and then a fifth to complete a larger correction within the wave 4 in green. But for now, we are looking at a very interesting trade setup here in a potential 1-2 movement into this area of support between the $27.6 all the way down to the $24.9. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.